I will have to use the past for this project, the past tense, because this is really the last event of GAIN. And we would like to share some of the outputs and outcome of the project with a wider audience. So that's why we decided to have this last event publicly available online for everybody and for free, of course. Instead of presenting some slideshow, I would like to give you an idea about what we did in game by showing a short video, and then I will introduce briefly the agenda. GAIN, Green Aquaculture Intensification in Europe, was designed to support ecological intensification of aquaculture in the European Union and European Economic Area. The project, funded by the Horizon 2020 EU's research program, aimed at increasing production volumes, the profitability and the competitiveness of this sector, while ensuring sustainability, fish welfare and compliance with EU regulation on food safety and environment. GAIN focused on two pillars of ecological intensification: the implementation of precision fish and shellfish farming and the reuse of aquaculture byproducts and side streams in the framework of the circular economy.
The ambitious GAIN objectives were achieved by merging and harmonizing the complementary expertise of 18 partners from the European Union, 2 international partners from Canada and China, 1 third party from the US. GAIN activities covered a wide range of aquaculture typologies, such as cage farming of Atlantic salmon, European sea bass and gilted sea bream in coastal areas, land-based farming of salmon smolt in recirculating aquaculture systems, and river trout in raceways, extensive and semi-intensive culture of common carps and shrimps in ponds, oysters and mussel culture.
Precision farming is an emerging paradigm for fish and shellfish aquaculture, one that will be a game changer for the industry and become one of the pillars of sustainable aquaculture. The GAIN project designed and tested an advanced prototype of a distributed information management system that can support farmers in the optimization of husbandry practices. The system is based on a data platform that collects and makes available farm data provided in real time by sensors, as well as data from public portals such as the European Union's Copernicus Marine Service. These large data volumes, known as big data, are processed using artificial intelligence in order to obtain short-term, farm-specific forecasts of environmental variables such as water temperature and chlorophyll, which can determine growth and welfare in fish and shellfish. With AquaSense, sensor data is converted into information which helps the industry farm better, produce animals that are tasty and nutritious, and that meet accepted welfare standards.
The second pillar of GAIN was the enhancement of circularity by testing innovative processes for reusing byproducts from fish processing and waste generated by land-based fish farms.
In GAIN, we investigated how to reuse fish sludge using an innovative process which turns this sludge into a sanitized powder. This powder is rich in nitrogen and phosphorus that proved to be an excellent biofertilizer. The results of the life cycle assessment show that the process is more sustainable than those currently used for treating sludge.
Shellfish processing to obtain fillets and other ready meals generates a large amount of biomass, which is currently underused or simply treated as waste. GAIN tested different efficient processes for recovering valuable products that could then be channeled to other sectors.
In GAIN, novel feeds including fish protein hydrolysates, microalgae and other sustainable components were tested on Atlantic salmon, rainbow trout, sea bass, sea bream and turbot. The results show that these feed performances compare well with those of the commercial ones.
Results of the value chain analysis showed that, in general, stakeholders were interested in the innovation introduced by GAIN. In particular, the salmon industry in Norway is concerned with feed composition as the public pressure for reducing ingredients from fishery is being felt. Novel feeds will therefore contribute to address this issue. On the other hand, innovation with carp supply chain is on the full processing of the species and reuse of effluents was regarded by Polish farmers as the way to increase profits. Any innovations will still require further tests, but the feedback from the industry is already promising.
Il modello che è stato studiato sembra che dia delle risposte molto buone, quindi che si possa cominciare come non si è mai fatto prima a poter prevedere quello che succede nelle ore successive o nei periodi successivi in allevamento rispetto a quello che viene fatto adesso. Questo per l'utilizzo di varie risorse per evitare gli sprechi è una di quelle cose sulla quale noi pensiamo che possa portare un miglioramento importante all'allevamento e alla sostenibilità dello stesso.
So I will just continue with the short presentation of the agenda today. So you already heard from the video, which is the composition of the GAIN Consortium, and I just presented here in a slide. As you can see, we had partners from many European countries, from northern countries and Mediterranean countries, which allowed us to explore and investigate and apply the GAIN concepts to different type of aquaculture typology in 10 pilot sites. Of course, in this slide, you can see also the social media through which we disseminate our findings. I just would like to underline that at the YouTube channel, you can find also the recording of most of the lectures that were held in the framework of the professional training activities that we developed during the last part of the project. You already heard about the pillars of GAIN. Our vision is that in order to improve both volumes and profits, and on the other hand, environmental sustainability, it is necessary to improve at farm sites the management through precision aquaculture and to improve the circularity of aquaculture. Of course, we also developed a range of tools for assessing sustainability, because this is a key point, and we looked at potential barriers to the implementation of GAIN innovation in terms of policies. The agenda is organized in two parts. In the morning, we selected some key outputs and outcome of the project, which we are going to illustrate to people who are not familiar with GAIN, and the idea is to give you an overview of these outputs and outcome. As you can see here, we will have talks about innovative feeds, about circular processes, about precision aquaculture, and the last two talks will give an idea about the tools that we developed for assessing sustainability, and also for looking at aquaculture social acceptability and policy changes which may be required to enhance the social acceptability of aquaculture products. We will conclude with a short, let's say, outline of the professional development activities that were developed during the project. We left, let's say, 30 minutes for discussion, but I strongly encourage participants to put on the chat their questions to speakers as they come along, and speakers to try to reply on the chat, which will be recorded as well, and it could be a source of extra information for the people. In the afternoon, the idea is to look at some exploitation pathways that we identified in order to promote, let's say, GAIN legacy. we introduced, first I would like to point out that GAIN, of course, was focused on European Union and European Economic Area, but we looked also elsewhere, and we had a very fruitful collaboration with the non-EU partners or international partners, in particular from Canada and China and US. NOAA was third party of the University of Venice. So we thought that it would be interesting to see how we liaise with these partners and how we could interact with them. So you can see a talk at the beginning and one in the end, which will given by Susan Bricker from NOAA, in which we will compare, let's say, notes also concerning policies that are in place or that could be put in place for enhancing the ecological intensification of aquaculture. In the afternoon session, as you can see, we will have a contribution from FAO. FAO is interested in some of the innovations that we tested in GAIN for which could enrich their platform. We will see how GAIN contributed to a very interesting initiative, the Global Aquaculture Challenge. We will see the perspective exploitation of GAIN in the valorization of aquaculture side stream and side stream, in particular in Norway, and how the processes that were tested could also be exploited for, in particular, fish protein hydrolysates within the industry of the valorization of marine ingredients, and how the innovative feed formulation that were tested could be taken up by the industry. So that's the idea of the day. Of course, I would like to thank again all GAIN participants, all GAIN partners, all advisors, and last but not least, of course, the review panel and GAIN project officer, Dr. Valcarcel, who has always provided very prompt and up-to-the-point advice to me, and therefore to the consortium. We all know that the world in which we are living now is different from the world in which we were living a couple of years ago. Of course, we are not the only one as GAIN who had some problems concerning the pandemic and how to carry out the foreseen activities in a radically different situation. And I have to say that Dr. Valcarcel always gave me very useful advice in how to cope with that, how to rearrange activities in such a way that we could achieve the main goal of the project, even though we had to remodulate some of the foreseen activities. For example, unfortunately, all meeting in presence had to be held online. So I would like now to give the floor to Dr. Valcarcel for his very kindly accepted to welcome the participants to this to our last final meeting.
Thank you, Roberto. Thank you very much for your nice words. Thank you for promoting me to Dottore. And I'm not. But really, I appreciate your words. For the ones not belonging to the consortium, I am Germán Valcarcel. I am the project officer from the European Research Agency belonging to the European Commission. And we are the ones managing the project from evaluation to along the implementation and definitely payments. Just a bit of a background. Well, Roberto has already pointed out basically everything I wanted to cover, but basically, again, especially for the ones outside, I think it's worth it to explain a bit how this started. It's not that we just decided to give money to Ca' Foscari Università de Venezia, 6 million euros of European taxpayer just to do whatever they wanted. Not at all. Roberto already explained that actually in 2017, there was a call for proposals with a political intention in agreement with the member states. And I read now to promote and support the eco-intensification of aquaculture production systems. And 2 projects were selected, Gain and Impact. The 2 of them, Impact finished 2 months ago, and I can't believe 3.5 years already passed, and Gain is finishing at the end of this month. So the 2 projects basically were selected to respond to this call. And they have been working for 3.5 years, and there were, in this call, they were very clear, and I also would like to highlight this, very clear objectives, very clear, we call them expected impacts, which is what we are expecting from Gain to achieve. So it's good to have this in mind at the beginning of this meeting, because now we are going to listen how much, at what level, or even if they have reached it, or even go beyond reaching these expected impacts. They were bringing to the market new and cost-effective commercial applications to assist aquaculture producers, to secure EU markets by increasing the offer of nutritious, high-quality and safe fish and seafood products, basically to be less dependent of imports, to improve the sustainability of European aquaculture industry by optimizing production systems and profitability while ensuring optimal resource use and minimizing environmental impact. Consolidating eco-efficient aquaculture practices to ensure access to high-value niche markets while, again, minimizing the environmental impact of the activity. And last but not least, to improve the professional skills and competences of those working and being trained to work within the blue economy. Roberto talked about training. So basically, this is what Gain was supposed to achieve. And definitely, Roberto, again, pointed out this is what not only we expect Gain to have achieved this, but to exploit these results. Results cannot be just kept, I always say, kept in the drawer. Results should benefit the sector and therefore beyond the society. So I will be happy to attend this day meeting to see what Gain has achieved. In the afternoon, Roberto covered exploitation and contribution to policies. I would like also to see how Gain is contributing to the European Green Deal, as aquaculture has been recognized as an important contributor to the Green Deal. Okay, well, thank you, and I wish you a very successful meeting.
Thank you very much. So I think that we can really start. We are at probably 5 minutes ahead of schedule, but I'm sure that there will be some small delays in some of the presentations. So I would start with the first talk, which will be given by, or let's say what we did was to organize, to ask to some of the participants, to some partners, to organize this talk. And since we are online, in each talk there could be different Gain parts who will speak about the subject matter. So I would like to give the floor to Bella, who is first, I think.
Thank you. So good morning, Roberto. Good morning, Herman Valcárcel and other EU Commission staff, partners, board members, and interested people. My name is Bela Buck, and together with other partners from Gain, we were involved in Work Package 1, which was led by Alfred Wegener Institute in Germany, Bremerhaven. I would like to thank all partners, and I have to say that the success of the large Work Package 1 was only possible due to the persistent help of all partners, especially during the COVID time. Due to content and logistic reasons, we have moved some of the tasks into another session, which is Precision Aquaculture, led by Joao and Fergal. So we will now hear a presentation of each of the remaining tasks, 1.1 and 1.2, and we will start with Barbara from Wageningen University and Research, and she will give us her insights about her experiments with microalgae. Barbara,
thank you, Bella. I will just
share your screen.
Yeah, I will just share. Let's see if this works. If I share the presentation, and then if I put it on presenters mode, do you see it like it's presenting?
Not yet. Yes, now we will see it.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Our part of the project within task 1 was to look into microalgae within the feed for fish. So our main objective was to really look into the microalgae as a microingredient in the aquafeed. So we're going to be talking about very small inclusions in the aquafeed. So using microalgae really as a very small component of the feed overall. The aim was to optimize, I have this piece here. The aim was to optimize the production of selenium-enriched biomass. So there is an issue in aquaculture that minerals such as selenium and zinc are really hard to supplement in the diet. So we wanted to supplement this using microalgae and use it as an organic fraction of the feed. And that way allow for an eco-intensification, so we would not produce waste of selenium in the fish feces or the wastewater. So our approach was actually to find a microalgal strain that was suitable to do this study. So within other microalgae that are already used in aquafeed and already approved for this use. We selected different selenium species as well, and we tried to include these in the microalgae. A big part of the project was also to be able to do pilot scale cultivation, since we wanted to provide biomass to our aquafeed partners. And then we wanted to also understand what was the selenium bioavailability. So if this selenium in the algae is indeed organic. And then after doing all of this, we still wanted to improve the production itself of microalgae and selenium, so that we would not bring the selenium wastewater into the cultivation process of microalgae itself. So starting from the beginning, the microalgae strain we used was Nanocropsis oceanica, and we tested these 2 different selenium sources. And we found that really the selenium inclusion was correlated to the selenium that is present in the media. And we chose a concentration of 30 micromoles, and this allowed us to have an incorporation in the aquafeed of around 0.5%. So according to Spaders, we wanted to use also a small concentration of microalgae in the feed. So we chose this concentration to move forward to our scale-up production. So in pilot scale, we did this here at Wageningen in the algae park, and we were able to have an inclusion in in our microalgae of 0.13 grams of selenium per kilogram of biomass. And this was done in photobioreactors. So we had to scale up our process from 25-liter system to 300 to 1,500-liter systems. And we ran this over autumn and winter, so that we would have 12 kilograms of paste, dried paste, to send to Spaders, to be then used in the different feed trials that you will see today. After this, we also wanted to understand what was actually the effect of this in the fish, so not just the microalgae side of things. So also a smaller trial was done with sea bream. We're still looking also into this data, but the overall data of the fillet, so what we were actually going to eat from the sea bream, looks quite promising in the sense that when you apply different selenium sources in the aquafeed, microalgae seems to be as good as, for example, a feed that is already available in the market, such as yeast. But so we're still looking into this data as well to see what is the effect on other parameters of the fish and fish welfare and health. In terms of the production process itself of microalgae, we wanted to improve the production process, because although we are getting an incorporation of 0.13 grams per kilo, which sounds great, which we can use for incorporation in aquafeed, we would still like to improve this further. So how can we add less selenium to the algae? And they take up almost everything. So we have very little selenium left in our wastewater. So we looked at different ways of doing this. In literature, you can actually find that selenium shares transporters into the cells with phosphor and sulfur. So we looked into these 2 major compounds in the media so that we could really increase this incorporation and make it more efficient. So increase the efficiency of uptake. Our results so far is that actually when we're working with, for example, here you can see two different concentrations of selenium. I have here selenium 5 and selenium 30. So when we used selenium 30 in our previous trials and pilot scale, we had an incorporation of around 16%. So here on the bottom, the control, efficiency of uptake. I don't know if you can see my mouse or it. And what we wanted to do was actually to add less selenium and have an incorporation of up to 80 or 90%, so that we don't have this wastewater problem, neither in the fish production or the microalgae side of things. So the good side of using sulfur and phosphor in selenium enriched production is that we can actually increase the efficiency of uptake with a small effect on biomass productivity. So we want the microalgae to grow as good as possible so that we have enough biomass to produce for the fish trials, but we also have a high incorporation. So these results were very promising. On the other side, we also wanted to understand how the selenium was actually present in the microalgae, because the whole idea was that by using microalgae for selenium, the selenium would be more available itself. So we know that selenium is incorporated in a way that's a bit similar to sulfur, and sulfur is present in amino acids. So we wanted to measure if we could find selenium amino acids, meaning that this incorporation is really organic. Once the fish is digesting the feed, these amino acids could be incorporated into the fish fillet, for example. And we actually found that selenium methionine was the highest species available in the microalgae. And this is also an amino acid that is essential for fish. And here you see a little bit the distribution of the selenium species we had. So we found selenium methionine, selenium cysteine, and this sort of intermediates, selenium methionine, selenium cysteine. But overall, our organic component of selenium was 60 to 80%. So that's also a very promising amount in the algae. So we're also looking into this so we can continue with the publications within the project. So overall, for a wrap up, we want to, our conclusions are that selenium enriched microalgae are really a promising use for microalgae in aquafeed. I mean, we were able to put the selenium in the microalgae, produce it large scale, optimize the process. It has been fed to fish. So we've really tried to incorporate from the beginning to the end of the process. The selenium incorporation is also in selenium methionine, which is the most interesting species amino acid for aquafeed in this case. And we also found that phosphor limitation can really increase the efficiency of selenium uptake while decreasing the selenium left over in the media, which is very important for wastewater issues. And then we'd also like to draw your attention to two publications we've already released as part of the project. And of course, they're all open access since this is a European project. So the first one is about how we did actually the optimization of the method to determine the minerals in the microalgae, since these are salt algae and salt interferes with the microalgae, the detection of minerals. And then our second publication, which also has a lot of what I showed to you today, which has the whole process of testing the selenium species, which one is best for the algae, the concentration, and the scale-up. And finally, I'd like to thank the team here in Wageningen. Without them, this would also not be possible, and my supervisors and my students. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Barbara, for giving us insight into your results, and congratulations to your positive results. We will move all kinds of questions to the session later today. And I would like to ask Luis from Sparos to give us a presentation regarding the field trials in task 1.2. Luis, can you please share your screen?
Yes, thank you, Bella. Good morning to all. Can you see my screen now? Okay, then I will. I will talk about eco-efficient feeds for European aquaculture, and this was a relatively large task within GAIN, which had the main efforts from 5 partners. I've tried to reflect this in the large author list that you see here. This is not all the people involved. This is just the people which had really major contributions. And also, I mean, besides the 5 main partners, 4 other institutions also had very significant contributions in this task. And the overall objective was to formulate and test aquafeeds which could be eco-efficient. And the idea was to support a new generation of sustainable fish feeds for European aquaculture. As target species, we had salmon, trout, sea bream, turbot, and sea bass. And all the work in this task turned around three main concepts. So we wanted to facilitate aquaculture eco-intensification, which is the main objective of GAIN. But of course, we want to do this through improve resource utilization and circularity, so towards zero waste. And the idea here, and that's quite important that we keep this in mind, is that we were not testing individual ingredients in GAIN, we were testing formulation concepts. So we cannot attribute any results to a single ingredient, so it's to the overall formulation. So a bit of background for this task. I mean, we all know that aquaculture faces several sustainability challenges. And many of these challenges, they are linked to feeding and of fish. So eco-efficient feeds can play an important role here. And we all know that traditionally fish feeds have been turning around the fish meal, fish oil, and soya products as main ingredients. In the last 10-20 years, there's been a lot of progress with testing new ingredients, including several vegetable and land animal processed sources, ingredients. But this is not enough if we want to have a really zero waste industry or a close to zero waste industry. So novel ingredients are needed, and some are already in the industrial pipeline. That's what we call the emergent nutrient sources, in which we didn't do any work in GAIN, but we tried to use them, include them in our formulation concepts, and these include the insect meals, which are known to be a very interesting ingredient in terms of as a protein source, and also single cell proteins, and this includes biomasses from bacteria, yeasts, and algae. And actually in algae, we did some work on this, as Barbara just mentioned. The problem with these ingredients is that for most of them, the market availability is still limited and prices tend to be high, but they are expected to decrease in price and gain relevance in the future. That's why we use them. And other novel ingredients that we were very keen on GAIN to test were byproducts from fish farming. So again, the circularity concept. And this will come later in the presentations from work package 2. Basically, we use the fish protein hydrolysates, which were developed under the GAIN project, as I just said. But we also tested one product which is already available in the market, which is salmon oil, which is a byproduct from salmon farming and processing. And in an overview of the formulation concepts we tested, we tested always against a control which was trying to mimic a current standard feed with moderate levels of fish meal and fish oil. That's the current industry practice. Of course, this will change from species to species, and all the feeds there, of course, they have to be formulated in terms of the nutritional requirements of each species. But and then we tested three alternative formulation concepts. We named them PAP, no PAP, and mix. But the PAP, of course, has much more than land animal processed proteins, as vegetable protein concentrates. The no PAP is especially rich in vegetable protein concentrates, insect and microbial biomasses, and the mix has a bit of all these ingredients I just mentioned. And what they have in common is all these formulation concepts, they included the GAIN ingredients, so the fish protein hydrolysates, micro and macroalgae rich in selenium and other minerals as a mineral source, so to partially replace the premix. And we also, of course, we used commercial available ingredients such as fish meal from fisheries byproducts, salmon oil, as I mentioned, and also algal oils rich in omega-3 EUFAs. Just, we did 9 trials in total during the project, so I will not go in detail in all of them, just give you an overview of one of them, the one that we got most interesting results, a trial on rainbow trout performed in Italy. where we started with 90-gram fish and we reached commercial size, and there we could see that the PAP and no PAP formulations, they presented results as good as the control diet. Actually, the PAP presented even a slightly higher growth than the PAP concept. And also in this trial, we also did the sensory analysis with consumers, and actually there were no major differences. The consumers, they perceived quite well all the fish that received the different dietary treatments, but actually the no PAP diet, the consumers thought that the texture was slightly better, but still the results were very good for all of them. Really summarizing all the 9 trials we did. So as I mentioned, with salmon, sea bream, turbot, trout, and sea bass, I tried to summarize them in this table. And here you can see the different key performance indicators in this row. And as you see, besides growth and feed conversion, we were looking at different key performance indicators such as flesh quality, mucosal status, gene expression, plasma immune parameters, nutrient retention, and digestibility as usual. We also did some assessments on health status, of course. And what we could see here is that overall, the impression, so the greens, the light green means that there were no alterations. The dark green means that there were positive alterations. The orange color means that there were negative alterations, which were not that many, as you can see. But I mean, even they were negative, but not that serious. I mean, they were never critical, as we could see. It was relatively minor alterations in any case. And there were also, when we looked at the gene expression biomarkers, we saw several, in several cases, there were what we call the adaptative alterations, meaning that the fish were changing their metabolism, but they were apparently adapting well to the diet. And this was special in terms of lipid metabolism and also in terms of the way the immune system was working. And there were also 2 other criteria which were not really assessed in this task, but I've included in this table, which were assessed by colleagues in work package 3 and 4, which were the production costs and the LCA analysis. So giving an idea on the footprint of this carbon footprint of these feeds. And actually here the alternative formulations, they didn't perform that well. And this was especially in terms of the LCA was a small surprise to some of us, but this is the result that we got. So overall, we can see that the growth performance and feed conversions in all trials were good to very good. So for the 5 species tested, and the results support that these concepts, they are viable options for the species tested, at least biologically. And the other key performance indicators also suggest that the novel formations, they do affect fish physiology, but not really in a negative way. The fish look for a new allostatic balance, so they try to find a new way of dealing with the feed. So no major effects on fish health could be observed. So overall, these feed formulations, they seem to be viable options for an eco-efficient European fish farming. The question mark, which is in this conclusion, is related to the environmental footprint, so to the carbon footprint, and to the cost of these formulations, which will be further discussed in the afternoon, I think. Thank you very much. Especially to all of you, and also to all the partners that contributed in this task, and I try to represent here. Thank you.
Thank you, Luis, for your presentation. Roberto, since we still have 4 minutes left for our slot, do you allow questions now, or do we proceed with the next session?
No, you were very good. So if there is one question or a couple of questions from the audience,
there's nothing in the chat yet.
Or in the chat?
Yeah, as you said, somebody who wants to ask something should put it in the chat. Otherwise, if there are no urgent questions, I would say give the floor to Carmen for the package 2.
Let me just thank once again all the people who carried out the field trials and this task in particular, because they were the most affected by the pandemic. And I really appreciate all the effort that was done in remodulating some activities, in trying to make up for time that was lost to the lockdown, which was enforced in different ways in different countries. So I really think that the effort that all people participating into this task did really their best in order to achieve the results that you only partially saw, that will be presented in an extended way in a public deliverable on time, to close the project on time. I really appreciate that. Cannot see anything in the chat, so maybe it's better to give the floor to Carmen for presenting the achievement made in many work packages 2, the achievement concerning the the announcement of circularity in aquaculture.
Okay, thank you, Roberto. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. Okay. Can you see my presentation now?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Well, my name is Carmen Sotelo. I am from...
Carmen, I can't see it in presentation mode.
No?
Nope. I see it in presenter mode.
We can see your notes, for example.
Yeah, it's not in slideshow.
Now?
Now it is.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for telling me. My name is Carmen Sotelo. I'm going to present the work that has been done in GAIN regarding innovative circular processes for the eco-intensification of aquaculture activities. This work I'm going to present on behalf of all these partners that have worked a lot in these aspects. Salten Havbrus Park, SHP from Norway, Aquaculture Pesca from Vigo, from Spain, Waster from Norway, and University of Stirling from UK, and of course my institute, which belongs to CSIC. GAIN aims to implement circular economy principles in the aquaculture activities by reducing the environmental impact and also reducing cost and creating new revenues with some of these streams which are not really being used. And that is done by transforming waste into innovative products and also by using the whole animal, both the edible and the byproduct generated during processing. Here, this is the outline of my presentation. Is all about valorization of side streams, which are generated during aquaculture activities. And the first area of research is dealing with the recovery of both dissolved nutrients and particulate matter present in the water of aquaculture, in particular in RAS systems. The second area of research has been the sanitation and valorization of mortalities. And the third one is the treatment, the management and treatment and valorization of byproducts. Let's start with the aquaculture wastewater. And one of the things the first thing that the GAIN partners have done regarding this is to analyze the existing technology and determine that if they were cost or efficient or not. And in particular, they have seen that some of these technology were not efficient to treat these waters because these waters have a very low dry matter content. And therefore, they find that the best option was to use drum filters that are most cost-efficient technology for at least for the initial dewatering of these waters, and also to concentrate particulate matter. These two, the filter dryer and waster dryers, were selected for testing. And here you can see what is the main characteristics of land-based Atlantic salmon small production. These are waters that are characterized by a very low dry matter content, as I said before, 0.02%. And the particle size is it can range between 0.5 and 700 micrometers. The average diameter is about 100 micrometers, with a high BOD and COD, and also a significant amount of fat, because it's compounded by at least particulate matter from the rest of feces and the uneaten feed. So for that, in order to reduce the environmental impact of this wastewater, we have had evaluated 3 systems. These two concern concentration of particulate matter, the X3 system, and also superheated steam drying technology combined with filtering devices. And finally, for recovering or using up the nutrients that are present in these wastewaters, the soft nutrients, in particular nitrogen and phosphorus, an aquaponics approach was used. The X3 system is based on a filter dryer that has been initially developed by a Swedish company, LS Optics, and it consists of a big drum, as you can see here in this photograph, with a fine filter mesh of 6 micrometers. It uses vacuum to draw wastewater through the filter and has relatively high flow rates. And also it has implemented a drying system, an infrared heating element that surrounds the filter, and at the same time that it's been filtered, the wastewater is being accumulating in the filter, and it is being scraped, and also it's been dried in parallel. The dry matter content of the sludge that is obtained is between 91 and 94%, and the removal of suspended solids is about 93%, while the removal of organic content, COT, is more than 80%. So it is considered that it's a very energy efficient system, and therefore this process has been successful. The other approach was to use mechanical filters to initially dewater the wastewaters, and then to use another type of dryer, the superheated steam dryer developed by Waster and adapted to this process. In this case, this dryer uses a single loop drying system, injecting the steam at a high temperature, 120 degrees Celsius, and producing a dry product which is stable, and the drying process is more predictable than comparable drying systems. But the objective of this work, it was not only to address the concentration of this particulate matter and drying the sludge, but also to find any pathways of valorization of this dried sludge. And for that, Gain Partner has used 3 approaches. In the first one, we have tested the dry sludge as a ingredient to feed insects. And that was tested in collaboration with a company, Protix, and we have found that the insects grow with this product. However, it needs to be, it requires mixing with other ingredients due to somehow to the content of heavy metals that are concentrated during the process. The other pathway for valorization has been to use this dried sludge as a bioenergy producer, And two strategies were tested. One was biogas. It can be a little bit more complex than another substrates because it needs two-chamber digesters. But the shortest path to valorization has been the direct incineration, because this dry sludge has a high energy content, up to 20 megajoules per kilogram, and therefore it's considered to be a very good valorization strategy. And finally, the other approach has been to use this dry sludge as a biofertilizer. And here you can see how this GAIN fertilizer compares with other commercial companies. We have tested in barley cultivars, and the GAIN dried sludge performs 45% better than, for instance, a reference mineral fertilizer with barley, and much better than other fertilizers from other companies. Regarding the soft nutrients, GAIN partners had decided to test the use of algae to be grown in these filter waters, which still have nitrogen and phosphorus. And for that, we have assessed the adaptation of a range of algae species, and we have selected some of them, like Condus crispus, Gelidum pulcherulum, and Urbalactuca. These candidates were examined at laboratory scale experiments. We measured the growth of these algae and the nitrogen and phosphorus uptake, and demonstrate that they can grow in these conditions, and they have defined also the appropriate nutrient and light conditions to provide a good growth. And the third task that we have performed was upscale these cultures to pilot dimension, using, in this case, 2-volt wastewaters. This was made here in Spain by Anfaco, and a mixture of seawater and small production water, and this was made by SHP in Norway. These are the results concerning Urbalactuca in Norway, and the productivity was quite good, about 70 grams per square meter per day of growth. The conclusion was that the size of the farm needed to neutralize about 71% of nitrogen emissions of this farm. The Kergeland small Sundfjord farm is about 10 hectares. And combined with the S3 system, the nitrogen can be neutralized almost completely, and also almost 12% of the phosphorus that is produced by this farm. Second area of research has been how to manage mortalities, how to sanitize these mortalities, and how to produce a product that can be valorized. And here the partners have assessed the technology that was currently used. Also, we have examined the regulations in place, particularly in Norway, but also in some European countries. And we have assessed the value of the product that can be obtained using the sanitation process that I'm going to show. They have, this was developed by Waster. They have developed a system to feed the mortalities. In this case, were salmon smolt. The problem here was the mixture of the fish with water, and also the fact that this fish has a lot of fat content, requires to add additives like wood chips and dry spent grain to facilitate the whole process of drying, which is just 15 minutes inside the drying chamber. So that is a very short time of processing. At the end, we've got this product, which is safe to store and also easy to transport. This is different from other approaches, and the value will depend on the valorization path of this dry product. And the third area that we were investigating is what to do with byproducts. And the first thing that we have studied is the potential for valorizing these byproducts, and that is going to depend on the degree of processing that are currently used in some aquaculture species. The most processed aquaculture species nowadays in Europe is Atlantic salmon and rainbow trout. You can see here the potential for valorization of some of the byproducts is it's high and it's already being produced. In other species like turbot that are sold mostly as a whole fish, this potential is lower because there is not a lot of processing going on with these species. These byproducts are mainly composed by heads, by trimmings and frames, by viscera and skin, and what we propose to manage and valorize this process is to recover flesh from some of these products like trimmings and frames. There are a lot of flesh that is still there. But mostly we have worked on the production of fish protein hydrolysates and peptones because most of these byproducts have a high protein content, isolating gelatin and collagen especially from the skin, and also obtaining oil. In the case of the production of fish protein hydrolysates, what we have. Byproducts are characterized by a mixture of different tissues and body parts. As you can see here, these are residues byproducts coming from Coolmarex, partner of Gain. And we have used proteolytic enzymes, different commercial ones like Protamase, Alkalase, FlavorPro, Papain, and so on. We have optimized the hydrolysis process, and we come out with a dry fish protein hydrolysate and also in some cases oil as a byproduct. Here is an example of a process flow chart for the obtention of fish protein hydrolysate. And at the same time, we can obtain bones because, as you have seen before, in some cases, we have bones present in the byproducts, and this can be used as a minor mineral ingredient in other industries, like in the feed industry, and also fish oil. And as we have already seen, this can be also used as an ingredient in the production of feed for aquaculture. And therefore, this is what we have done with FPH in Gain. We have tested this as an ingredient for novel aquafeed, and in fact, we have produced different species fish protein hydrolysates. Here you can see this has been work done in collaboration with the University of Stirling and different partners of Work Package 2. These are the current production of heads, frames, and trimmings in different countries in European Union. And here you have the projection of what happens if all these byproducts were transformed, for instance, in fish protein hydrolysates. The estimations in Poland, which is the biggest processor of salmon in Europe, will be, for instance, 3,500 of metric tons of dry FPH. We have also studied the isolation of and the production of collagen and gelatin. And collagen and gelatin are nice compounds because they have applications in industries like cosmetic, pharmaceutical, and food industry. There is a lot of applications where these products can be used, and therefore the price of the product can be relatively high depending on the application. We have investigated the isolation, especially mainly from the skin of different aquaculture species, and here I'm showing you the ones that perform better. In the case of gelatin isolation, best yields were obtained with the sea bass, and in the case of collagen, the best yields, 80%, were obtained with the turbot. Again, here you have the projection based on the current data on processing and the amount of skins that are present in different countries in Europe. And you have here in the right side of the slide the potential production of, in this case, gelatin concentrated. This is a liquid form. And in the case of Poland, you can have almost 2.2 thousand cubic meters per ton of skin, which can be a good yield. Sorry. Another byproduct which can be huge is the presence of mussel cells, especially in countries which are producers of these species, like Spain, France, or Belgium. In some industries, like the canning industry, can produce, or even the cookers can produce a very huge amount of these byproducts. And here the approach has been to try to reduce plastic by testing the performance of these cells as a filler of biofilters, which are usually they usually are plastic rings, like the ones that you can see here. For that, this has been done by Anfaco here in Spain. We have designed an extractor as a filter, and we have tested at a lab scale the performance of these filters with a filler of crush shells or plastic rings. We have compared both of them in nitrification and the nitrification process, and as you can see here, they compare very similarly, and in fact the crush shells have a better performance in terms of ammonium and nitrate elimination rates compared to plastic rings, because mainly of the stability, the biofilter is maintain better the pH during the operation of this reactor. So that is not the case in the plastic rings, where the pH can change a little bit more. This biofilter was also tested in a pilot scale, as you can see here, that they had a high nitrification yield, 100%, and also the nitrification yield is okay, 60%. More than 60%, and the good thing is also that the removal of phosphorus is also very good, close to 80%. I would like to summarize all the results obtained in this part of the work of GAIN. Regarding wastewaters, we have generated 2 prototypes, Waster 60 and the X3 system. We have developed 2 processes for managing wastewater, purification of aquaculture wastewater, and drying and sanitation of fish sludge. We have also developed 2 innovative products, one biofertilizer product coming from this dry sludge, and one bioenergy product, and make 1 publication regarding the growth of larvae using this dry sludge. Regarding mortalities, we have here also developed 2 prototypes, and automatic feeder and Waster 15, especially suited for the sanitation and drying of these mortalities. 2 processes, drying and sanitation of salmon, small mortalities, and drying and sanitation of go-out trout mortalities. And 2 innovative products, these dry mortalities for being used for biogas production, and a potential pet food ingredient. In the case of the research done with byproducts, we have developed 1 prototype, the cell biofilter, and 6 processes regarding the production of FPH, peptones, biocatides, gelatin, collagen, and fish oil with aquaculture byproducts. 1 innovative product, and this is aquaculture fish feed ingredients based on FPH, and 7 publications. And finally, I would like to thank you for your attention, and also acknowledge the work done by these partners, SHP, Anfaco, Ecopesca, Waster, CSIC and University of Stirling in this part of the GAIN work. Thank you.